All right. Thanks, Jim, for jumping on. Appreciate your time. Could you please just start us off a little bit about your background, where you're from, that type of thing, leading up to where you are now, and then we'll go from there.
All right. My name is Jim Wendler. I grew up just outside of Chicago. Went to school originally at the Air Force Academy, and then transferred to the University of Arizona. I played football there. After that, I went and did a graduate assistantship at the University of Kentucky with the football program. I also worked with a couple different other sports. Then I went to Elite FTS, or as it was known back in the day, Elite Fitness Systems. And then eventually, I think after about 10 years of being there or so, I branched off on my own. Most people would know me from writing the 531 program, writing the books and stuff. As far as training, I started training between the summers of my 7th and 8th grade year. So I was about 12 or 13 years old. This was begged my dad for years. I wanted to lift weights so bad and, be strong and all that stuff. And so he finally relented, and I haven't stopped since. So that was my introduction. We used, again, there's not a lot of information out there. So we started off, some of your older viewers might remember some of the old Nautilus circuit machines. We had 2 of those in our high school weight room. And eventually, after maybe 3 or 4 months, I started squatting and benching and doing some of that stuff. But the workouts were very, very basic. And then I think it was probably during my freshman year of football. So it was pretty fresh. Football is a fall sport. So I found a magazine detailing like how real athletes train. It was such an eye opener for me. I couldn't believe that people were hiding this. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And so, it was just a different take on how I had been training before, which was just, for the lack of a better term, bodybuilding style. And I also played like my 7th and 8th grade year. I played, I think, 5 sports a year. So, I was always busy doing sports. I just trained right through it. You're young, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But when I started reading some of the articles, it was like, oh my God, like this makes so much sense to me now. You're not squatting, 80 sets of 30, stupid stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that was, and then since I started training, like I'd been obsessed with it, just obsessed trying to find information. And so by the time I had graduated high school, I was already writing my own programs and reading as much as I could. Again, this was prior to the internet. You just had a few books, maybe that were at the library, if they happen to have a book on training or whatever, you pick up whatever information. And then luckily I had a teacher at my high school who knew a shit ton about training, who helped guide me. And that was probably my biggest influence. He squatted, push pressed, power cleaned, hang cleaned, benched, all that stuff. Did a ton of box jumps and hill sprints and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I kind of was put off on the right path pretty early in my life. Just like when I was in 5th grade, I was introduced to Slayer and Venom and Celtic Frost, and I didn't know that was like cool underground metal, but that's how I was introduced to heavy music. And so like I kind of started off on the right foot. I didn't start with cheesy pop music. It was fucking heavy, crazy shit from the beginning. So and that's just a result of where you grew up or who you chose to hang around and who you were open to listening to, as far as like Darren, my mentor, teacher, coach in high school. So I was just very, very lucky to be receptive to that and to have those people in my life. So I trained. Go ahead.
What was your thing with picking up like weights at 12, 13? Like what inspired that? Not many, usually like around 16, something like I sort of start, or maybe 14. Like it was pretty early that you were interested in it.
Yeah. Well, growing up in that time, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and all those big action stars were massive to me. you know, they have the huge muscles. It's not like it is today where you have, and I love Jason Statham, but he's not inspiring anyone to pick up weights. So there was that. And then I don't know how I came upon this, but I realized really early, probably my 7th grade year, that I wasn't horribly talented. I was athletic. I could play sports, you know, better than most kids. But when you go look at other people in other sports, or, you know, pro athletes, or even kids I played against, I realized I wasn't super talented like they were. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I had like a keen understanding that I wasn't going to be Walter Payton or Barry Sanders or any of these great athletes. And I remember reading an article that said, hey, if you do this, you'll get faster, you'll get stronger, you'll get better. And I was like, fuck, I can do this. And like, this is something I have control over. I could lift as hard as I can. And from that day on, it was, I'm going to do as much as this as possible so I get an advantage on the football field or whatever other sport I was playing. And then, you know, from my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade year, I played football, baseball, basketball, wrestled, and I ran track. And I was a really good cross-country runner. And I just ran cross country like I lifted weights. I would just there's no pacing. I just, you know, because I figured, what the hell, you know, and my dad was always a fairly, you know, preached aggressiveness and stuff like that. And then after I started lifting weights, the 8th grade year track came along. That's at the end of the year. That's the spring semester. And now all of a sudden I was the fastest kid in the school.
Wow.
And I was like, well, there's only one reason why this happened. I mean, it wasn't stupid. I'm like, I'm stronger. So the stronger I got, the faster I got. And then you parlay that into when I played college football. You know, I played at a level of college football that was so far beyond my level of talent. And the only reason I was there was just because I was in better shape and I was stronger than most other people. It had nothing to do with talent, because there was 99.99999% of the people on that team were faster, better, more talent than I was. I was just willing to stick it out a little more than the next guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, being, you know, I squatted, I think 622 for a double when I was about 220 pounds or so, 225 in college. And it's, you know, it's an awesome lift, but you have to realize that I didn't miss lifting. I never missed a lifting day. And so it sounds good. And then you realize all the work that went in there, and it's not a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, and one of the things that always kind of upset me a little bit was eventually after I stopped playing football, I went right into powerlifting, and I went into my first powerlifting meet, and I was like, I think 30 pounds away from an elite total. And people are like, oh my God, that was your first meet. Holy shit, you're so strong. I'm like, dude, this is 20 years of training. Like, this wasn't just going to pick up a barbell like 6 months prior. It's a lot of work that went in there. And so, you know, someone once asked me if I was a good squatter. I said, no, I'm just a dedicated squatter, because that was the big lift when I was a kid. And growing all 3 squats were it. Like, you know, bench and all that other stuff I could care less about. But, you know, squatting, jumping, that was the key to athletic success, as far as I knew. It was squats, jumps, and sprinting hills. So
the consistency I heard recently on like a previous podcast, you have your guys train right through Christmas, like all year round, basically. And it's sort of something that seems to be a trend for you, like for your own training and with the boys you coach.
Yeah. Well, there's just so everyone knows, I work with a high school football team at London High School, which is a small town in London. It's London, Ohio. And we're not, and I'm very straight up with the kids. We're never going to win a game because we're more talented. But we can win a game, again, just like I found out, if we just work harder and smarter. You have to do both. You can't just, you know, run yourself into the wall. Yeah. So the easiest way I found to do that is just be as consistent as possible. So generally speaking, we probably take I think the most we've ever taken off in a year is 2 weeks. That's total throughout a calendar, any year. And so as soon as the season's over, we're back in that weight room the next week, and we're training right through. We train right through the in season. Like, we don't miss days during the in seasons.
What sport do you do in season? Well, how many days do you do in season in the gym?
We do 2 main lifting days and we do 2 recovery days. So we play our games on Friday. On Saturday, our kids will come in and we'll do recovery workouts. It's not very hard. And then we have a hard day on Monday, a hard day on Wednesday. And then we do recovery and yoga work. Believe it or not, I run the yoga on Thursday.
Yeah.
So I had to learn yoga pretty quick because I started doing it. And I realized it was so good for me, and it's been good for the kids. The kids love to do it. You know, the kids have a good laugh. I mean, they take it seriously, but you see a 240-pound dude just trying to twist, and but I think it's been good. So, but the bottom line is, like, we will win because we're more consistent. And there's, obviously there's coaching involved in that, as far, coaching the athletes and stuff. I'm not talking about that. That's a whole other entity that they do a great job with. But with what I do is we train as consistent as possible. And the more consistent you train, the less balls the wall craziness you have to train, because you're always coming in, having a good workout. You never have to really, I call it, you never have to cram for the test. A little bit here, a little bit there. And even over Christmas break, I remember we don't take days off during the Christmas break or anything, but one time training fell on Christmas Eve. And I told the kids, I said, listen, we can move it to another day. And the seniors get to vote. Like, I'll come in at 9 a.m. on Christmas Eve, and we had 100% turnout. It's just, that's what's expected here.
Yeah.
And, we talked earlier, this is a smaller town. There's only 10,000 people. It's spread out. It's a huge, there's a lot of farms here, but there's just a different kind of attitude here than you would take like in a bigger city. And the parents are incredibly supportive of what we do here. And it's not an easy program to be part of. If you spend all 4 years going through here, you're going to be coached hard. Like, you're going to earn whatever you get on that field. And I always tell the kids, no one wants to see how the sausage is made, right?
Yeah.
It looks great when you win 65-0 and you don't throw a single pass during the game and you just beat the shit out of them. But no one sees, like, yesterday we run outside year round, and it's 32 degrees and it's 25 mile an hour gusts. It's not fun. It's icy, it's cold, and but that's what gets you there. I call it the Kaiser Soze effect. You remember that movie, Usual Suspects?
No. Sorry.
You never saw that movie? Oh my God!
What is it? I'm gonna write it down.
You should get off this fucking podcast and go watch it. It's a great movie.
Suspects, yeah.
Yeah, Usual Suspects.
But the name rings a bell. Yeah.
Terrific movie. But in the movie, Kaiser Soze is I guess you call him a drug lord or whatever. It's kind of hard to explain. And Kaiser Soze found out the only way to be successful is to be willing to do what the other guys aren't. That's it. If you're willing to do what the other guys aren't, then you're going to be successful. So you have to find, like, it may be incredibly out of your comfort zone. It may be just a little bit out of your comfort zone, but that's kind of how we approach things. So,
yeah.
And, to be honest, none of this would have been possible if we didn't have the support of the head coach. Even during, I know you're probably not terribly familiar, but we changed how we practiced. Weight training is all the way through the year. It's all the way through two-a-days and all that other stuff. We never miss lifting because it's so important. That's how we know we're going to have that mental and physical edge. Like, we are, but that doesn't happen without that kind of support. Like, you can have all of these great dreams, but if you're a head coach and the parents don't want to do it, it doesn't really matter how much you want to do something. So I'm very lucky to be part of a community that kind of accepts the craziness and not only accepts it, but embraces it and expects it.
Yeah. I read on one of your more recent articles, you guys were 0-9 or something like that. And, but I know you guys were pretty rubbish early on. Like, how many years has it been to build up your program? Like, because you guys weren't that great before, and now you guys have been you know?
Yeah. So when I first got there, I got there during the summer practices. So I wasn't part of anything. And that first year I helped out on the field. Okay. And then very early on, I told the head coach, like, listen, man, let me take care of the strength training. Just trust me. I will take care of all this. You don't need to do this anymore, because he was doing all that. And so that first year, I think we went 3-7. One of our wins was probably against the worst team I've ever seen in my entire life. And we beat them like 24-17. Like it wasn't, it was close.
Yeah.
And we just got manhandled. It was horrible. Kids were hurt all the time. It was a bad year. And so after that season, I was now in charge. Now, during that in season, I handled the strength training, but it's a little difficult because I wasn't there before. The kids didn't know me. So once we went into that off season, the seniors voted no days off. We're going in. We had a final game on Friday. That next Monday, we were right in the weight room. And we changed a ton of stuff about how we did stuff, from our, like I said, from our practices to how we trained and all. By the time, so that was in early November. By the time January rolled around, beginning of January, our kids were, and this is not me, this was the teachers and the coaches and the parents, our kids were bigger and stronger than they've ever been. And it was like, holy shit, we have a chance. Like, we have a chance. Like, so by that next year, so there's just one full off season. By the next year, we were in the playoffs. Wow. And we've never missed the playoffs since.
Wow.
And to put this even more in perspective, of those 5 years, 2 of the years we played without a quarterback, meaning we didn't have a dedicated quarterback. And it's very difficult to win a football game without a quarterback. But we found a kid to play who was a receiver or a linebacker or a running back. Just like, go in there. And we were able to go to the playoffs without having what most would consider the most important team player on the team. Now, that's a lot of how we run our offense and stuff like that. But that shows you, oh, someone's here. Oh, my neighbor Terry's here.
Getting some sugar.
Yeah. So it was really just 1 year we were able to transform everything.
Oh, yeah.
And it just showed. And now, again, I give a lot of credit to those seniors, because to go from 3-7 and trust a guy that they really didn't know. I had just kind of come in there and, who is this tattooed, bearded dude? What does he fucking know? He's not from London. So I give them a ton of credit. I'm still remain in contact with some of those guys. And so every year it just kind of builds. When you start having success, people trust you a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And now it's gotten to the point where this is what we're expected to do. When you play London football, it's going to be a horribly physical, awful game for you. You know it. We put guys on the ground. We take care of business. I don't know how. I mean, it's funny because a lot of our guys aren't the biggest dudes, but they will physically fucking ruin you. I mean, they will. And I take tremendous pride in developing a physical football team. And the way football is now, at least on the NFL, is very physical. But they've changed a lot of rules, and we've kind of said, nope, we're going back to the old school way, and that's how we win football games. So I'm super proud to be part of this. Yeah,
that's great to hear, because one of my questions was, how much does the gym, the gym room have an effect on the game? And you just pretty much answered it there, like, because I've been a big believer in the gym and working hard and all that stuff, but it's a lot of people are skeptical of how it can transfer to the field. But they have it, like, because people, they're real skeptical about that, like how much it can affect the game,
Well, there's a couple things I'll say. Is one, in America, football, the weight room is part of the culture. Okay, it's just kind of, that's accepted. Not many sports are like that, even here. Even if you talk a good game, like, it's important that we do this, a lot of teams don't. But it is part of the culture. So that we kind of got a shoe in right there. But again, everyone likes to talk about it. Like, we work real hard. It's like, bullshit. Let's really do it. Let's do the correct work. And, I was talking to my wife today about it. An article I'd like to write about high school football is one of the last sport places where you can, if you're willing to do the work physically and if you're willing to be violent, you can find a place on the field. You don't have to be the most talented kid. You just have to, again, we talk about Kaiser Sose. If you're willing to, you know, put your head through someone's face mask, then, I mean, I know you can't do that now, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're willing to do that, and if you're willing to control the things you can't control, which is your effort in the weight room, your dedication, your consistency, your attitude in all areas of life. If you're willing to do that, we can find a place for you on our team. You will play somewhere. You know, it may not be the position you want, but you will find somewhere on the field. Now, there's not a lot of sports that can say that, especially basketball. There's only 5 guys, and obviously talent is always going to reign supreme. But there's 22 places on that football field, and if you're willing to do that, we will find somewhere for you to go. Like, we have to. It's like we don't have enough guys to do that. So it's just, that's how big it is. And I'm lucky that the head coach has his background in strength and conditioning, so he understood it. But I don't think it was until we started dominating, we're like, holy shit, this is really, like, this is us. Like, this is who we can be. And I said this to you earlier before we started recording. We're not going to beat teams on talent. We have some very talented kids, but it's a small town. We don't have a lot of, you know, we don't have 4,000 kids go to our high school. We have 400. So we don't have a ton of talent. And so instead of making it, getting it, let's just make our kids tougher and stronger. And the other thing is, psychologically, it is a huge boost for kids to go out on the field knowing, hey, you know, for the past 48 weeks, I've done the prowler once a week. I've squatted every single day. I've done more chin-ups than I could ever imagine. Like, I know I'm physically ready. Like, there's no one that can beat me. Now, they might be faster than me. You know, they might be more talented, but no one's going to have worked harder than me. And so psychologically, that's a big boost. You know, our kids walk a little, you know, I want our kids to think that, you know, their shit doesn't stink in a way.
Yeah.
I want them to have that confidence, because that's, that's an attitude you can't, you can always tell it, you know, have a great attitude, but you have to build that attitude.
What about like the gym room? I'm assuming that it wasn't really set up the way you wanted in that to begin with. And then like you said, as you guys got success, maybe you were able to like move it around, like add things, different pieces and things like that. Was that the case?
When I got there, we had a very nice weight room.
Oh, okay.
You know, we had to move stuff around, and we had to buy a couple things. We had to get rid of a lot of stuff. I got rid of almost anything, any machine. And it wasn't because I'm against machines. The problem is if there's 50 kids in that weight room and you have one lat pull machine, you can't program lat pulls. It's a waste of space. So I think right now we have 16 full racks with movable benches. We have a boatload of dumbbells. And so 100% of our training, we don't do any machine work because we don't have any room, is barbell, dumbbell, or body weight. That comprises of everything we do. And the only thing I really did, you know, with the, you know, obviously taking a few things out, we added some new racks. The way that we set up the weight room allowed for me to coach perfectly. And we have a nice big space in the middle for, body weight stuff or part of the warm up, stuff like that. So it's not all condensed, I guess best way to say it. So, but I can walk up and down the middle of the weight room and coach, you know, just keep on walking and coaching and coaching. So,
no, man,
I should say we're very lucky because our kids also, every summer they raise money for the football program, and every piece of equipment we buy is raised by the football team.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Yeah.
So they you know, it's not fun. The kids sell mulch, you know, door to door, and they sell mulch. And that's how that's how we've paid for every single plate, dumbbell, barbell, rack in that weight room. So.
No, it's awesome the work you and your wife are doing. I worked in a CrossFit gym with my family for like 8 years, and then did a bit of PT. But listening to you, I think it was on maybe Barbell Shrugged or one of the podcasts, listening to a few of them. But that was a part of the reason why I stepped away and I work at a school now, because you were talking about volunteering, you and your wife, and it was more fulfilling.
Yes.
And I sort of found out through working with at the gym, I loved it, but I enjoyed working with the teens more. Like I enjoyed everyone.
Yes.
And getting back to sports as opposed to just helping people lose weight and stuff. I felt like it was a lot more fulfilling working with the team. So I'm sort of in my second year, but isn't it weird that like someone across the world in New Zealand is, got encouraged from, it was you and like other people as well, but that was a part of it. And I've been loving it. It's been my second year and, trying to help the guys we've got a lot of talent at our school. We're like 3,000. But
holy cow.
But the school doesn't prioritize training and things like that at the moment. So, me and a couple of other teachers, we're trying to, get into the guys and, help the programs. We're at like the building phase, like ground level.
Yeah, you're at ground zero, man.
Yeah.
You might even be in the basement.
Yeah, for real.
That's one of the advantages of being in America is it's taken very seriously. Yeah. Especially high school, college, and NFL football, it is nuts here. Like that's kind of as goes the football team, so does the the state or the city or the town. It's just really big. But I couldn't imagine. Like I talk to people all over the world, and especially in England, soccer's big, and then rugby's kind of big. And I ask them all this stuff, and they're like, dude, it's not even like no one cares. Like the coaches don't care because it's not part of the culture. And it's very difficult because you're trying to basically say, institute a whole brand new way of thinking that people are like, well, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, dude, but it could matter. It could matter.
Yeah.
If you just let it. So it's that's one thing that I'm very thankful for is, being, at least I'm not starting at the bottom level, and that's tough. The only thing is whoever you work with is they're going to have success, and hopefully that builds, some freshman or eighth grader will see some kid, nice who trains his ass off, like, holy shit, I can do that too. Like I have control over that.
Yeah. And
you just hope that success builds and builds and builds.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the other thing is when you're part of a team, like you feel like you're, rather than personal training, you're just kind of like, you know what Ronin is? The term Ronin.
Yeah.
It's the masterless samurai.
Yep.
When you're kind of by yourself, you're not really part of a movement or a tribe. And when you're part of a team, like, you're an important cog in the machine. Who knows how important it is? I think sometimes when I talk to people, like, oh, thank you for what you do at London and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, but I'm only one piece of the puzzle. Like there's a lot of great pieces that have to come together to help. And it's awesome to be part of something where you're needed.
Yeah. That's
like it's an important contribution to society and to this community.
That's a great point because like I played, like yourself, played a lot of sports like basketball, rugby league, cricket, like growing up, and then like getting into the CrossFit. There was a bit of community too, but I missed that the journey of an off season and in season, the ups and downs, the arguments that you have with your teammates, your coaches, the egos, it's all a part of it. And I was like, I think I missed that, whether it goes good or bad. It's like you said, it's fun to be a part of a tribe. And you hang out with the parents and, the kids hang out together. You go get something to eat after the games. Like, man, it's all beautiful stuff.
It is. And, people ask me about what I'm doing. And, for about, 20 years, I've done probably 1 million questions and answers and all this other stuff. And I felt like I've made more of a difference in 6 months when I started doing this than I did in 20 years, on the internet. That's not to say that's not important and that can't have value. It's just when you're working one-on-one with someone and you're there with them every day and you can see them grow from a snot-nosed fucking kid you want to punch when they're, 13 or 14 to, 18 years old and they're getting a scholarship to play football and they get all their school paid for. It's like, holy shit, this is awesome. You've earned it, kid,
Yeah.
So it's nice to be part of something like that.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask about like programming too. Like I got your book 531 Forever, and I like the crypt here, but just in terms of like cycles and things like that. Kids, they want to move on to the next program. And I know you're like more of a, keep things basic, that type of thing, not change it too much. Yeah, a little bit about your programming, like how you move into the next phase and all that sort of stuff.
All right, so I'm gonna try and be as simple as possible here. Everyone will say, as an example, my goal as a strength coach is to make you a better football player or whatever sport, right? And that's great. But my main goal is to make you the most muscular, strongest person I can. Because by doing that, we'll take care of the stuff on the football field. We want you muscular, strong, and always be in great shape. Okay? Just so we're clear? I'm not like, you need to be, that's the most important. That's what we're doing in the weight room. So with the barbell lifts, our main concern is speed and power. So we never really max the kids. We never max the kids out. I always make sure that the kids' weights are low enough that they can complete the reps with plenty to spare. Okay, because we have 4 years to get to add weight. So I don't want one workout to be, now sometimes we'll push some sets, but for the most part, we're looking for great control, speed, and power. Okay, so we're always doing usually sets of 5, sometimes sets of 10, but that's what we do with the barbell lift. That's year round. So if kidney can go up after a cycle, we'll move them up a little bit. If he's starting to choke a little bit, we'll move him down. I have no problems. And I tell the kids, this is for your own fucking good. Like, just relax. It's not an indictment on your character as a human or the length of your penis as a man.
Yeah.
Okay. So everything after that is generally 2 things. It's to build muscle, because a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle. And when you look at a 14-year-old kid, you can't apply the same principles that the Russians did or the Bulgarians did. Like, we just want them stronger. That's great, but this kid can't even do a chin-up. This kid can't do a 4-count burpee without, taking a dump on himself. You understand? So when I started working with kids, it was a huge eye-opener, because I forgot all this stuff that needs to get done. This is not internet awesome. This is not like, putting bands and chains and going to a tube board. The kids need to learn how to do a push-up before we do anything. The kids should be able to do 10 pull-ups before they do anything. So everything after the basic barbell lifts, again, I want control and power, that the kids are always safe but awesome. Everything after that is build as much muscle and get them in great shape. And when I say great shape, what does that mean? We run year round. We never kill the kids running. Okay, because running will really sap all your strength. If I went out and ran, 2500s with minimal rest, the next time we train, the kids are going to be so tired, there's no point. So we run probably sometimes only 10 minutes. Yeah. But it's good, hard running. But we do that 52 weeks out of the year. So kids are always, ready. So when we do need to bump that up once the season starts, the kids have adapted, their ankles feel fine. So with the assistant stuff, we usually circuit the shit out of it. And the reason why we do that is, one, the kids get a little more fatigued. That's what I want. To build muscle, you have to break down the muscle tissue. 2, if I tell the kids, as an example, we have 5 sets of barbell presses, you have 5 sets of rows and 5 sets of lunges. If you don't circuit it, it's going to take them 35 minutes, because they're going to fart around. When we do stuff on the clock, everything we do in the weight room, everything we do is on the clock. So every rep, every set is done, bam, bam, bam. We're able to get so much work in a short amount of time. And the resulting thing is we have greater muscle mass. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So we don't really do a hypertrophy phase, a peak phase, because they can't jump on a 40-inch box. They can't do 30 push-ups. There's no reason for phases. And we set our goals. We said, listen, we're the basic body weight stuff. Like, I don't want to line up next to a kid who can't do a push-up on a football field. Right? And it's embarrassing. Like, you got to be able to, we call it, you got to be able to carry your own rifle. Yeah. And I think a lot of strength coaches live in this world where they think this has already been taken care of. The way that the world works now, no one has any physical education. My wife made a great point. She said, I'm a glorified PE coach a lot of the times. We have to teach them to do jumping jacks. Now, did you ever see that video that was posted about 7 years ago of the special forces guys teaching the Afghan army how to do
yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. And so you take that shit for granted.
Yeah.
Right. We teach kids how to jump. Like, listen, you got to jump off both legs. What? Both legs? Use your arms. So this is all basic stuff that we pound into the ground day after day. And I tell the kids, you're never too good to do basic squats. You're never too good to do push-ups. You're never too good to do chin-ups. You're never too good to do jumping jacks. So we pound this shit out of the basics over and over and over again. The biggest change that we did this year was everything's on a clock. Every warm-up set, every work set, everything is done on a clock as a group. And we're able to get so much more done. Our training capacity and our work capacity has skyrocketed since we started doing this. Instead of, I used to be like, listen, you got 20 minutes to finish your lifts. Some of these ding-dongs, that's what I call them, they're my ding-dongs. Some of the ding-dongs won't ever get anything done. And so this makes them accountable. And so we take, during the barbell lifts, we obviously have longer rest periods between sets. But for the assistants, we do every minute on the minute and we go. Yeah. And I also inform the kids, I call it, you got to have personal sovereignty, meaning, listen, you can take a set off and kind of half-ass it, but guess who's not going to play because of that? You. Yeah. So and it's amazing how the kids that seem to play the most seem to work the hardest. It's not a difficult formula to figure out. But at the very least, doing stuff on the minute, every minute, and telling them exactly what to do kind of forces a lot of kids who kind of need that push. And then all of a sudden they start getting bigger and stronger. And all of a sudden, oh, I get how to work, because a lot of kids don't know how to work hard. As an example, like when you've been lifting for 25 years, you know how to push a set balls to the wall. Like your nose is bleeding, you're shitting out of your fucking mouth for some reason. It's horrible. These kids think that when they do a hard set, that's hard. It's like, dude, you still have like 8 reps in you. You just don't know how to tap into that attitude and intensity. So even when you're pushing the kids, they aren't really being pushed as hard as they think they're being pushed hard, but psychologically and physically, they're not really pushed as hard as they can. So the other thing, I know I'm talking a lot here.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
The other thing is it's not just me, it's the head coach. We have insanely high standards to everything we do. I mean, everything has to be on the fucking, when I say down, everyone's down. If you're fucking around, you're out. If our hands are behind the line, if your buddy, it's gotten to the point when we're running sprints, if your hand's not the line, you will get MF by the other kid next to you for being a loser. Like, you got to get your shit right. You're going to hold us all back. Get your shit, So the kids understand, especially as juniors and seniors, like, listen, this stuff matters. All the little stuff matters. Because on the football field, again, we're not terribly talented, jumping off sides, making the wrong read, going the wrong way. That's the difference between, a touchdown and a 5-yard loss. So it's, the little stuff, but we preach it. I mean, it's fucking every 5 minutes I yell at someone if their foot's not pointed correct. Like, do it right. Yeah. And I always, like, who here runs a 4-4? Raise your hand. So you can't, you can't afford not to do shit right. And like I've talked about this before, but what ends up happening is the kids, once they kind of embrace it, they have great pride in doing the right thing and pushing hard. And it becomes like it's an attitude, but it becomes a sense of pride. Like, this is how we do stuff. There's a reason why in high school football, at least in Ohio, if you're up by 30 points, they just they keep the clock running the entire time, so that we have a running clock every game. Meaning we're always up by 30 points or more. And our kids, like, we got to get out of here. Like, we got to get home. So it's a sense of pride. And I hear parents, get the clock running, let's go. Yeah. And we got to score some touchdowns. So it's that kind of thing. And it's, once you raise your level of expectation, I think kids want high levels to achieve. If you expect crap, you're going to get crap. So
yeah, man, That's also keeping you guys in shape all year round. Like I'm assuming your injuries would be pretty low or like nil, like that type of
Well,
thing.
magically, yeah, my first year when I was there, I was on the field. That final game, we had 7 starters out. Now, 7 starters on our team means, because everyone plays both ways, that means 14 positions weren't playing.
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Magically, when you start to win, no one gets hurt. Now, we occasionally will have like the season-ending injury. That's just kind of the way it
Happens,
goes.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's just, that's bad luck. And then I tell the kids all the time, I said, do we get hurt in the weight room? No, sir. Where do we get hurt? On the field. I'm like, goddamn right we get hurt on the field. I said, it's an honor to get hurt for your buddies. That's what I tell them. Like, there's no greater honor than taking a bullet for your buddies. And there's, be proud. That's okay. It's 100% injury potential. However, the stronger you are, the more in shape you are, the more mobile you are, the more harder you play the game. We have very, 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 very few injuries. I mean, very few. Other than like something that, like, listen, it's just, the way it goes sometimes. But like I said, winning takes care of a lot of this stuff too. Yeah. On Saturday morning when you've won 75-0, your shoulder, it doesn't feel so bad.
Yeah. And you always got a little bit more energy when you're on offense as well, when you're attacking.
Yeah. I think it's just a bruise. I'm fine. Yeah. So that seems to have taken a huge chunk out of that. And, like I said, we have the occasional thing. And what's even more amazing, the last 3 years, we've had an offensive lineman break his hand. And every one of them they put a cast on it and they've never missed a game.
Wow.
And so they play with a big club,
So they just use the other hand for the 3-point. Yeah.
That's just the way it goes. So that, again, these kids work so hard, they're not going to miss a game because their hand's in a cast. They're going to power through it. And that is one of the, I've never been more proud. It's like these kids, they work so hard and they want to work hard for their teammates. They take great pride in it. And it's hard to teach that outside of a physical sport. It really is. Basketball, you get poked in the eye and you got to go to the Mayo Clinic or something, or whatever. It's just a different kind of attitude. Yeah. So.
Now, thanks, Jim, for sharing all that stuff on the high school training and all that sort of stuff. Well, your own training, it's quite cool. I see some posts about your training, like the walrus stuff and that. You're doing like twice a day sometimes and that.
Yeah.
Is that every day?
Yeah. Since May 1st, I've done 300 squats, 200 push-ups, 100 chin-ups, and 4 or 6 miles on the airdyne bike with a 20-pound vest. Yeah. So I don't know how many days that is, but I've missed 4 days out of that, but I've doubled up on the day after. Wow. So if I missed a day, I would do 2 of those a day, or sorry, 2, so 600, 400, 200 with a 20-pound vest. So it's been, I got to a point, I had lifted heavy for so long. I had my spine fused. I was in a bad motorcycle accident. I've got 3 hernias, just not doing good. And my body, I could still lift barbells and stuff, but I couldn't lift hard.
Yeah.
And I hated it. Like, if I can't do something and have a goal and push the shit out of myself physically, I'm bored. So I figured out, well, what can I do, and what can I do incredibly difficult? And this is something I found out that I can do. So it's not incredibly fun. It's, it's repetitive. Yeah. But I feel better than I ever have. I mean, considering that I've had back issues and stuff like that, I'm able to do what I can do. And I'm able to push myself on certain days. We'll do, like on Saturday, we did 1,000 squats and 500 push-ups. Man. And the next day I'm fine. Like, oh, it feels good. Like, I'm not horribly sore. So physically I feel great. Just so we're clear, is I don't know, it's probably 8 years ago, I came up with the term walrus training because it's the fat, gross cousin of the Navy SEAL. I figure, I got a laugh out of that. And, but honestly, there's different variations of this. And one of these days I'm going to start compiling a book of all the different ways to do this and how to program it, whether using barbell training or just doing this exclusively. But I'm 46 years old right now, from 13 until I guess 44, 45, I guess. It's just hardcore bar, lifting as hard as I can. And I was like, man, I needed to change. And I feel I feel I'm in way better shape now. Obviously, you do that every fucking day for, for a year, you're going to be feeling good. Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy I got some kind of focus again, because it's hard for me to train without focus. And I know a lot of people, like, I love to train. I'm like, yeah, that's great, but when you have something on the line, your training just goes bananas. Like, that's when you start really making some progress. So right before I started this, I made a deal with myself. I said, listen, no matter what happens, I'm doing this every fucking day, no matter how sore I am, no matter how tired I am, no matter how cold or hot it is outside, because I train in my garage. So like the temperature swings are insane. And I've stuck with it. And now it's more of an active discipline. Yeah. And which goes again to coaching. I know you sent me a list of questions. You talk about leadership.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why I'm really addicted to doing this stuff, I don't know if addicted is the right word, but the kids see what I do. I live in a small town, kids will drive by, or, I help some kid, whatever. And if the leader needs to exemplify more discipline, more effort, and a better attitude than what they're asking of their kids. That's how you get kids to buy in. That's the most asked question I get, other than like, training stuff, like specifically what's the program you do? Like, how do you get the kids to buy in? And you get them to buy in by being an example beyond belief. And I'm not always live up to this, and I struggle with this a lot, but the kids aren't going to listen to some flat schlub who doesn't do anything. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that you might not know anything, but if you really want the kids to buy in initially and really start believing, you start living with that same amount of attitude and discipline that you expect from the kids. And magically, here's what's crazy. The more that I ask of myself, guess what happens? The more I ask of the kids, and I start to realize what we can do as a team. And the more that I've done this, the better I think I've gotten as a coach. And I never ask the kids to do anything that I haven't done or won't do. Like listen, this weekend, this is what I'm doing. If anyone wants to step up and try and meet me, let's fucking do it. And so I think that you're not going to listen to some poor guy live in a shanty about how to manage your funds. You're going to ask, the rich guy, how did you make all this money? Yeah. So I think that's super, super important. That's like, if you're going to have 10 spots or 10 things for leadership, that's like 1 through 8. Be an example, and not just an example, the greatest example you can be. So I'm still working on that, but I think that's a huge thing. You're never going to follow a schlep into war. One of the things that my buddies, a couple of them served in Afghanistan, and I always like, how do you go into battle without your leader? Because you got all these people telling you to go. I want that guy at the tip of the spear with me, because I'll follow that guy. I have no problem. I want to be a leader. I like that, but I have no problems hitching my trailer to a guy who's willing to go out in front and start, taking on the enemy. And that's and I know we're not talking about war here, but that same kind of attitude needs to be prevalent. You have to be the tip of the spear in attitude and discipline and work ethic. Yeah. So.
No, I love that, because I feel like a lot of people get disconnected. Like maybe they were a former athlete and they prescribing the stuff for their kids, but they've forgotten what it feels like to be in that type of pain. And so when you're leading from the front, you're connected to what they're going through, and you can relate that type of thing.
After that 3-7 team, that season, I sat down with the head coach and we were like, dude, what are we going to do? because whatever we did last year, we can't do that. And you ever seen the show Seinfeld?
Yeah.
Well, George Costanza during one episode did everything the opposite of what he did. And he got like the prettiest girl, he got a promotion, he got like everything was perfect in his life. And so I told him, let's just George Costanza this. Whatever we did before, let's just do the exact opposite. So we literally paired it. Anything we did too much, we just did less of. If we didn't have enough emphasis on X, Y, and Z, let's now have that. And because I also said, and I call it, you never want to honor the dead ghosts or honor ghosts. And what that means is, especially in football, but I assume this is in any sport, this is how it's always been done. This is how it's always been done. Now, a lot of it has merit. But I asked him, I said, what things when you were a player did you fucking hate? Like you couldn't stand it. And like, let's just take those things out. Let's just be done with it. Who cares? Let's do it our own way. Now, those weren't like massive changes, but 25 small little changes start adding up, over time. And so we got rid of a ton of stuff that was just kind of stuck in the past. And like I said, screw it. Let's just get rid of it. And I think that was, again, I did, when I was a player, we did this kind of conditioning. Well, do you think it was beneficial? No. Well, then don't do it.
Yeah.
It's like the kid who got beat up all the time becomes the bully. Like, you don't remember how that felt? That was horrible. So let's not do that. Let's have a better example. So we did a lot of stuff. And I think a lot of other teams are kind of figuring this out, but we did a lot of things differently. Some fairly large things, actually, that we stopped doing. And it was a total risk. But I told him, like, well, what's the worst we can have? Like, well, go 2-8?
Yeah.
It's not going to get worse, So screw it. Let's just do things different. So it was a big reminder or a big eye opener for me because, as you can imagine, the sport of football has a culture. It's very rich in history. So when you start to kind of bend some of those rules, it's like, oh boy, you don't even, you feel like you're bad mouthing like Muhammad Ali as a boxer or something. Like, oh, don't say it, man. This is crazy. So, yeah. But one of the best things we did was have a horrible season. If we went 5-5, we probably wouldn't have changed anything.
It's weird how people follow things just because that's the way it's always been done. But like, yeah. I always ask the question, like, what success have they had? What are they doing? Whoever it is, and a lot of the time, just people are speaking from their ass. They don't really know what they're talking about. Like, or they haven't had success. No. I won't listen to anybody unless they've had some sort of success, or had.
Yes. And the other, the one thing, like, this is one thing that I've noticed too, is in football, whoever is the winning team, most, whatever team that would be, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? Now, the other thing you have to understand is what kind of talent do they have? Because they're probably winning in spite of what they're doing because they have so much talent. If you don't have all the talent in the world, you can't do the same thing that the best team in the world is doing because they have all the great guys. It doesn't really matter that much what they do. If everyone's just 6'5", 270 pounds and running a 4.4 and shredded, like, It doesn't really matter what they're doing. But so that's the other thing we have to kind of get out of. It's, it doesn't mean you ignore them, but I'd rather find a team who's successful, who looks like us,
right?
Has very few players, doesn't have a ton of talent, has to develop talent, stuff like that. So that's super important to understand too.
Yeah, that's a good point, because the first few like athletes I coached like that were teens, they were freaks, and I didn't realize at the time. And then I had kids afterwards, like as you mentioned, they couldn't do a push up or pull up, and it's been mostly like that since. So I got sort of lucky the first few, and it's been tough since, with their physical, preparedness and that. It's do push ups and things like that. It's been rough.
It's the good part. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was just a good learning curve. Learning from that.
Yeah. The only good thing about coaching that is you don't the kid who can't do all this stuff. You just have to get him to do some very basic stuff. He's going to be better. Like, he doesn't need to power clean 400 pounds. He needs to learn how to do 3 chin-ups in a row. All of a sudden, he's going to be physically better. So it's kind of fun because you're like, listen, all we got to do is get this kid to do a push-up, and we're going to be miles ahead of where we were before.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, that's just there's good and bad for both of those. You know, on your resume, it obviously looks better. You know, when you got Mr. All-State, Mr. All-American, guy who scores 60 points a game or whatever. But the real work is with that kid who can't really do that much, and you turn him into a good player.
No, it's been great, Jim. Like, it's awesome talking with you. Like, because there's not many people that over here that are sort of similar, sort of interest and mindset and stuff like with training and all that. So it's been awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Just got a couple final questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just the greatest lesson your parents taught you, mom, dad, or whoever brought you up.
I had and have great parents. Best parents I could ever ask for. My dad was a coach and a teacher, and my mom was a teacher. So I think if I could whittle it down, is my dad always told me never follow the crowd. You know, that doesn't mean they're always wrong, but always do your own thing. And unfortunately, I kind of took that way too far on a lot of stuff. The idea that work will get you somewhere was huge with my dad. I mean, he knew, you know, I knew at an early age, like I said, that I wasn't terribly talented. And I think his just put your nose down, stop looking for accolades. No one owes you a fucking thing. No one owes you anything. So just work, persevere, and you'll get there. And, but I couldn't ask for better parents. I mean, they still come to some of our, they're still live in Illinois. They'll drive out to watch our football games. And, you know, they still listen to them on the radio when they're not in town. So they've been incredibly supportive of, I mean, let's put it this way. When I was in high school, I played in a rock band, like punk band, and I was the drummer. And I don't know if you know how this works, but you always practice at the drummer's house because he's got the most equipment. So for 4 years, you know, every Saturday or something, you'd have all these kids come over and just make the worst racket. And they never said a thing. You know, they were always very supportive. And I just, now that I'm a parent, I'm like, oh my God, I would kill myself if my son started a band and had to play in the basement. So that should tell you everything. So they're very supportive of whether it be sports or music or anything else. And then they pushed me hard. They had high expectations, but I think I lucked out. Let's just put it that way.
Awesome. Is there like a book or maybe a couple of books that have had a big impact, you know, on your life that you sort of refer back to?
No, not really. I was an English major in college, so I've read like 1 million books. And when I grew up, that was massively emphasized in my house. Everyone had to be reading a book at some point, you know. I will say that the best books I ever read was by James Ellroy, which is it's a fiction author, kind of. You obviously know Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe, yeah.
Russell Crowe starred in a movie called L.A. Confidential, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. That movie was based on one of Ellroy's books. But I enjoy fiction and like that kind of insane noir, I guess, kind of fiction, where it's just grisly fucking LAPD cops in the 1950s, you know, doing whatever the hell they want, corrupt but good still. And but I've never really had, I don't know if this sounds pompous, I never got anything out of the motivational books.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really need it, because I was so driven. Even my dad is an incredibly quiet person. And he told me, this is a year ago, I never had to push you because I've never seen a younger kid more disciplined and more like hard-nosed about what he wanted to do. He's like, I've never had to do anything with you. So now I just say, like, well, you had the easiest job parenting ever, you know? Because I never smoked, I never drank, because I never wanted to ruin my athletic stuff. So I'm like, man, you guys had it fucking easy with me. So I never got anything out of that. I think once you understand the perseverance of hard work, all that stuff it's like eating Italian food. You get stuffed, for 45 minutes, then you're hungry again. I just don't think it works. You got to live it. You can only reading books, as much as I love that stuff, it's not going to really help you. So
how do you go with your being a father with your own kids? Like for me, being a former wannabe athlete and a meathead, I want my kids to obviously excel in sports and stuff. So it's like, how do you balance that? Like, how do you navigate that sort of stuff?
Yeah, that's very hard. My oldest son is graduating this year from high school. He lives in Texas, but I still talk to him all the time. But his last 2 years, I Zoom called him and trained him. And it was awesome. And so it was a great, the one thing, like, you want the kids to have that to have that same kind of, I don't want to say success, but the same experiences that you had. But, selfishly, he loves football. So I get to talk to him about football all the time. Like, we have a genuine connection. We're always texting each other. Like, did you see this shit? Oh my God. So selfishly, it's awesome to have that kind of relationship. With my youngest son, we started training him. When was that, babe? I guess 3 months. He's 10. So we do 4 workouts a week. We squat, bench, deadlift, press, jump, chin-ups, push-ups, body weight squats, tons of jumps. And it only takes, 20 minutes? Yeah. 20 minutes or something. And he was kind of like, I don't want to do it. And now I have like these little fractional plates,
Yeah.
Like a 1 1/4 pound plates. And so we set PRs, every day. It's just like you slide a little thing on. And, I don't know if you heard, but I did like 100, So he's starting to take great pride in it. He thinks like he walks around with his shirt off now, checking himself out. And
it's also there. So,
but I tell my oldest son, I've told this to everyone, it doesn't matter what job you have. If you're physically fit, you're going to be fine. Yeah. It doesn't, like, your life will be so easy. Yeah. If you just kick a little ass. And it only takes, really, as an adult, maybe 30 to 45 minutes. Like, it doesn't have to, whatever you want to do, but it's work incredibly hard for that. And after 6 months, like, you're going to feel like a new person. Yeah. And but yeah, it's hard. It's just, my dad was a coach, but he was never my coach. So I never had that blur where it's like, you're my dad, and then you dress me down, in front of everyone. So I never had that. So it's always been a little weird. But with my youngest son, like, he needs that kind of direction. He needs that push, and he thrives on the discipline and the expectations. So he's a little different, I think. But oh my God, he's a little different. Oh my God.
Man, I feel weird sometimes because I can't help but want my girls to go pro in the sport. Like,
yeah.
Even though one's only 3 and one's the other one's 1. And I talk to like other parents and family, and they're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna let them do what they want, find what they want." And they're like, "Nah, you're gonna try."
So that's like, I always tell people, if you don't influence them, someone else will.
Yeah, for sure.
And you don't want them to hate doing what they do, but they don't even know what they like.
Exactly.
Yeah, I tell the kids when I'm coaching, I said, there's a reason you don't vote, why you can't make decisions in here, and why we don't let you make decisions for everyone else, because you're fucking stupid. You're stupid. Yeah. So I make the decisions in here, and like, oh, coach, like, what? You can't vote for a reason. You're too dumb. And I heard this the other day. If a 35-year-old guy had the mentality of a 14-year-old kid, you would think he was an idiot.
Yeah.
So that makes 14-year-old kids an idiot. So, anyway, so it's all nice to be like a hippie parent, but it doesn't work very well. You got to push them somewhere.
Yeah, I'm definitely pushing it. Like, I got like a little basketball hoop in the house. I put a ball, just to like brainwash her. There's a basketball hoop outside. We watch basketball. All sports, but we watch basketball. I just want to see it. When we play pickup games, try to bring it down and stuff like that. So definitely not just.
Well, Yeah, like we have our weight rooms in our garage, so it's all part of our lifestyle.
Yeah.
So he thinks it's normal that we have, a monolift and, dad's doing chin-ups with his weight vest and, that's just the way things go. Doesn't your dad do chin-ups until his hands bleed? No, that's weird. So,
yeah, I got a garage gym as well, and they crawl around, and I got little 1 kilo weights, and she picks them up and talks about muscles and stuff like that. Yeah. So
does one rep. That's all I need to do.
And when I change her nappy, and she pretends like doing sit-ups.
Yes, do it. Lift up your legs. Squeeze my hands. Squeeze my fingers.
Grip training. Yeah, I did that. Squeeze my pinky. Yeah. So
I want to hear something crack, kid. No food.
Yeah. I even get on the playground and try to play tag with them just so they can work on their agility.
Well, the playground is I don't know, like we have one down at the school that they have the monkey bars that we make him do and all this. The other thing is he jumps off stuff and lands. That's super important.
Yeah.
And I think like 2 years ago he started jumping off something that was about 4.5 feet high. And it just like, I'm like, oh my God, it's so bad. He just flies off and lands. And I'm like, God, if I did that, every bone in my body would be, my muscles would tear. But it's awesome for them. That's just playtime. That's, again, what kids aren't getting a lot of, Yeah. And, if they're not getting it, you're going to have to provide it in some way. So
just a couple more questions. Message you would put on a billboard, like people seeing through on the way to work or wherever they go, I would see every day.
We were talking about putting up a billboard that, take care of your own shit, be your own boss, take responsibility, stuff like that. I think would be a huge thing. Be your own leader. I think would be huge. I tell that to the kids when they're strength training. I said, listen, like the game, any game you play is a team sport, but in here you have to be selfish with your effort. Like if someone's not working hard, get them out of your rack. You start, take ownership of what you have. And I think that would be it's very much like Jordan Peterson always says, make your own bed. Don't police the world until you can police yourself. And you'd be surprised how lacking you are in areas that you think other people should excel at. Does that, you know what I'm saying? Like, you should do this. It's like, well, you're not doing it. Why would I listen to you? So I think that would probably be the big thing is, take care of yourself. And, with the one thing that I've learned over this, especially over the nuts of COVID, was I'm amazed at how many people think other people have authority over them. You don't have any authority over me at all. You can't tell me to do something. Now, of course, there's exceptions. Like, I'm not going to murder someone. Like, there has to be a moral framework to that. But, like what, Andrew Cuomo did by putting people into COVID patients in the nursing homes. And there's 10,000 people were killed by him. Like, you don't have to do that. Like, you don't have to, I don't know. Like, some lady yelled at me for not having a mask. Like, you don't have an authority over me. Like, what do you think you are?
Yeah.
You're nothing.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things, like, I value. America's very weird because I had a friend come over from Australia. He comes over every year or so. And when he comes back, everyone's like, oh my God, is everyone just carrying guns and just shooting? He's like, no, it's just like, it's such a massive part of our culture, especially in the Midwest, where it's like, listen, I want to do your own thing. If you're not hurting anyone, let it go. And it's just a different, like, you grow up with that kind of outlaw spirit. Like, you're not telling me anything. And again, that's what my dad taught me. He's like, you don't follow anyone. Like, you're your own person. You do what you need to do. So, but as parents, like, I realize how important it is to instill that, because I don't want my kids falling into line with something that's not morally correct. It makes me sick to my stomach. And so, that's something we probably do a little too good of a job on. Yeah. Stand up for yourself. Like, they don't have any authority over you.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
That's good, because I've been to the States like 3 times, and it's not like what you see on the movies and TVs. Like
No, no,
everybody's being like so hospitable and like helping us out. You know, being tourists, we're lost and things like that. People
yeah.
in the right direction, tell us where to go eat and stuff like that. So I don't think I've had
Yeah.
a bad interaction. Yeah,
No, you have to understand too. I tell everyone the entertainment comes out of one part of the country and the news comes out of another. Everything else is completely different.
yeah,
You know, it's just a different area of way of different morals, different area of life. And so it just depends on, because the United States is a huge country. I don't think people realize, like, each pocket is different. Like the South is nowhere anything like the Northeast. Like this, you couldn't ask for two different, you know, not just weather, just the way that people are. So it depends greatly on where you're at. And the good thing is you can move anywhere you want. It's like you're free to do whatever the hell you want. And so living in a small town in Ohio, you have tremendous amounts of freedom. Like I always tell this, during the COVID lockdowns, my wife doesn't like this. We trained everyone at my gym here.
yeah.
And no one said anything. Like we knew all the cops, we knew a lot of the DAs and stuff. They're like, no, you're fine. Fuck it. Like, we're not following anything. So we never lost a day. I think we lost 2 weeks of training.
Yeah. Oh man.
And so the kids just worked, and the parents were like, no, they weren't freaking out about it. I'm sure some were, but for the most part, everything was fine.
Yeah.
So I'm I was never more proud of my town than during that time, where people are like, we're doing our own thing, you know? So it was nice to see, not people. I don't want to get terribly weird about this, but anyway. So yeah.
That's cool to hear, because I didn't go through like maybe the last 5 or 6 weeks. I just got some of my cousins and nephews, same thing, training out of the garage. But
yeah,
we looked at each other, the neighbors, and we're like, I won't tell if you won't tell. And they got people over as well and that sort of thing. So it's all been good. And then I just the last couple of weeks, some of the basketball boys come and train in the morning. And so yeah. I think it's all good stuff. You know what? We're training, trying to, we're connecting, physical. It's good for the kids, man. They need it. So
it's the suicide rate skyrocketed for kids during the lockdowns. It's, man is a social animal. You need that interaction. It's super important.
Yeah.
And when you saw every single politician break his own rules, you're like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, they're not for your health. It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
You guys are a bunch of fucking losers. So that's when I was like, you know what? We're done. I didn't really believe them anyway. Like, during the lockdown, we traveled. We're like, fuck it, let's go. We're on planes. Woo!
So the last question is just your definition of success.
I read that, and there was a book I read when I was in high school. My mentor, whatever you want, my coach, trainer, it's called The Greatest Salesman in the World. It's by this guy named Og, and that's OG, the worst possible name.
Yeah.
Og Mandino. And he said, everyone measures success differently, but everyone measures failure the same way. And failure is simply not reaching your goals. And, everyone's going to have a different version of success. But I think we can all say it's just reaching whatever goals you have. And I just think it's super important that people have goals. And before we go, my wife just ran for, what is it called? School board. She ran for the school board here, because it was one of those things, like, if we're going to be part of the change, we're going to do stuff. And, you hear a lot of stuff, we before me, and, we're together. It's like, at this age, at a young age, you have to be independent, and you have to be striving for your own goals. Let's push that. Let's push kids who are self-motivated, who have a sheet in front of them, says, listen, I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to do this every day. And I think building a goal-oriented culture, and it doesn't mean you're selfish. It just means, like, listen, I'm responsible for my own success. I have the power to make a change. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, that doesn't mean like you're going to go become the president or go to space. It means, listen, I'm going to graduate high school. I'm going to have good grades. I'm going to go get an internship, or I'm going to go do a apprenticeship somewhere. Like, that's how the kids need to learn how to be goal-oriented, rather than, we're all in this together. Bullshit. I'm in it. Like, these kids need to learn how to strive for goals, and that they can reach those goals. I really think that that's super important. So I don't know. I always found that weird. It's like, you can't, how you tell a 10-year-old that, you know, we're all in this together. Come on. It's like, no, kid wants to do well on his math test for himself. You know, he doesn't care what his neighbor's doing.
Yeah.
And when they join the Marines, it can be we before me. But until then, let's kick some ass on an individual level. So my wife she left me a note here. One of the things that we don't really publicize this at all, but I have a forum, the Jim Wendler forum. It's $4.99 a month, and we screen everything out. So there's no politics, there's no baloney, and it's all training 100% of the time. We have a tremendous amount of good guys on there that help out. I don't know, we have hundreds of people on there.
You just made a post about training James too.
Yeah, and my wife just made a post about how we train our kid. She does stuff with the how we train the high school football and the junior high team. And there's a lot of just regular guys on there who, you know, we help out and stuff. So it's a great resource. Everyone has to post under their real name. There's no, you know, Big Squatter 480 or, you know, anyone that we don't like in there or something or acts out of line, we just boot them off and refund them the money.
Yeah.
So it's an awesome, it took many years to get this going, but it's a great resource. And I know, yes, it's a paid form, but without that, you can't.
Yeah.
You have to, you know, you gotta have some kind of bouncer at the front door, you know.
What's it? What is it? Just Jim.
Yeah, it's on the website, jimwendler.com forum, and there's a little thing you fill out. My wife works with all that stuff and make sure that you know, you're on the up and up and stuff. So, and the good thing is it's the most supportive community I've ever seen, like online, because usually they start off really good, you know, and then it just goes to shit. And have a bunch of trolls on there and stuff like that. So we've only had a couple instances here and there where people kind of got out of line, but you know, we have the power to take them off, and it's essentially a great community with a stern leader. That's like, I'm not, you know, boop, we don't need your $5 that much, honey, you know. So I'm just very, very proud of what we built. So it's been good. So.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you for doing this. I really do. I know I know it allows me to talk about myself, the most important thing to me. And it's true, man. I talk about myself all fucking day. But thank you for reaching out. I do appreciate it. And if you ever need anything or, you know, any questions, just feel free. Like my wife, you know, you contacted her. Yeah. That's the best way to get a hold of anyone. I don't answer text or emails. I don't do any of that stuff. Like all my friends text my wife, like, "Hey, what's Jim doing?" I was like, "Tell him I'm, you know, whatever." So, but yeah, we'd be more than happy to help out. And good luck, man. You're kind of climbing up your new territory. But the good thing is just build the success, because once you build the success, everything starts falling into place. You just gotta, you know, it might take longer than you think. So, and the other thing is you're doing good work. You know, you're helping people. You're helping young people. There's nothing better, you know. Do you ever see the quote that I had that, you know, if you want to change the world, raise good kids. If you don't have kids, coach, teacher, mentor. So that's, you know, you can go out to all the protests and scream at everyone, but this is how you help people out. You raise your daughters well, and you help the kids out. That's how you change the world.
No, I love that, because I think growing up, I you know, wanted to be a pro athlete and then help the world and stuff. But I realized I just got to help myself and my community, you know what I mean? And that's,
you got to help yourself first. You know what? It's the, you ever been on an airplane where they tell you to put your mask on first?
Yeah.
Take care of your shit, and then you can start helping other people.
But like you're saying, just helping my own family, my own community, and then wherever it goes from there, But it's purposeful and fulfilling work. So thanks for the great.
Yeah, it's bigger than you think. Trust me.
Yeah.
All right. So Jan, I appreciate the time. Thank you. I gotta go work out now.
All right, man. Thanks, Jim. It's been fun.
All right. Take it easy. Bye.